Hi guys, Asmo here, and today I wanted to share with you a strategy as well as a build which has helped me to make a lot of currency in the past few days. I've made over 200x doing this strategy, so I'm gonna describe exactly what I was doing and exactly the build I've been using. This video is gonna include the currency strategy as well as the build guide for this character and maybe some suggestions what other characters will be good for this strategy as well, because I think it is significantly better if you make a good character for this. I made like 200x, but I still have like tons of, like, you can see I have like, how many is this, like 58 logbooks or something like this. This is all farmed in one session of basically mapping and farming these logbooks, and then I'm gonna go over like how I farm the logbooks, how I use the logbooks, and where does the main bulk of the currency come from. So first, let's talk about this strategy. So this strategy is basically a grand design expedition strat, which means we are picking the grand design keystone on the Atlas skill tree, and we are making sure to pick a lot of notables, and these notables are going to give us more pack size. So we are blocking a lot of different mechanics here. We are picking quite efficiently a lot of map sustain. We are picking some extra mechanics such as strong boxes. We're picking a guaranteed essence. We're picking all of the notables that we need for expedition, because expedition is the main way how we're farming this. And then a few less important nodes. We've got also some shrine nodes. We got the strong box nodes. We got sextant nodes. And we've got also the blue altar nodes, which will help us make extra currency. But the important part is the number of altars, because what we care about is the extra quantity that they give. So this strategy basically relies on stacking the pack size and then abusing quantity. So the way we are abusing this is basically the more pack size we have, the more impact of the quantity, right? Because if we have 100 monsters and we increase their loot by like 5 times, it's gonna be more effective than we have only like 50 monsters, right? So bigger packs, more monsters, more benefit from the quantity. The map that I chose for this strategy is City Square, because City Square is a very simple, very easy, very quick map where you can run to the boss, kill the boss in the middle, and then you can go hunt the altars. Whenever you see the expedition, you set up all the remnants, and then after you set up the remnants, you detonate them, and then you run away, you clear the rest of the map so that you can come back and have all of the monsters spawned without wasting any time, without having to wait for them. And that will allow you to use the Pandemonium Sentinels to just pop like hundreds, empower hundreds of monsters at the same time and just blow them up. So the way, let's maybe go through the preparation that you will need for this aside from the build. So first thing you're gonna need are going to be some city square maps. The city square maps are going to be very easy to self-sustain. You're going to over-sustain the maps if you run them the same way that I'm doing this. So number one, city square. Number two, I would recommend grabbing a lot of the good sextants. So the sextants that I recommend are: your maps contain 100% increased number of runic monster markers. This is worth like 60 chaos or something like that right now for oh, this is actually less uses. I want like 4 uses. What you want to do is search here, grab 4 uses, and there we go. So it's like 66. I like to select 70C. You can also grab the ones that are 16 uses. This is almost 3x, but trust me, it's going to be worth it, because you're going to be dropping a logbook, like more than 1 logbook per map on average, plus tons of other stuff, currencies, raw exalts, and many other things. So these are a big investment if you want to go for the bigger sextants, but they are definitely worth it. Especially when it comes to the pack size, I definitely recommend grabbing also the increased magic pack size. Grab the 16 uses, because that gives you 30% increased magic pack size. And I also recommend grabbing increased pack size in your unidentified maps, because we're going to be running a lot of unidentified maps. Roughly half of the maps that you're going to be running are going to be unidentified. So for those maps, you want to have that. So you basically put the runic monster sextant, you put the magic pack size sextant, and then you put 2 random sextants with just like extra monsters. You don't even have to put them on. And then you also put the unidentified sextant whenever you are running unidentified maps. So those are the sextants that you're going to need. When it comes to scarabs, I would definitely recommend grabbing at least polished expedition scarab. You can also grab the gilded expedition scarab. I was running gilded because I was doing a full juice, so I recommend grabbing the gilded because that is scaling the number of runic monsters even higher, and we definitely want to take advantage of everything that we're doing, like just exponentially scaling the quantity and pack size. So I recommend the gilded scarabs if you're using the sextant. If you have some extra like rusted or polished expedition scarabs that you want to run, I'm going to explain also what you can do later with those. But first, let's go to the big juice, right? So then you're gonna roll your maps. So you're gonna grab your maps, you're gonna chisel them all to 20 quality, you're gonna alch them all, and you're gonna then look at the quantity that appears on them, and you're gonna make sure that it's at least 85 quantity. If it's not 85 quantity, like let's say you roll them all here, if it's 85 quantity, move them to the right side. If it's not 85 quantity, then just scour them and roll them again, alch them again. Once you get everything to 85 quantity, then you search. If you're running my build, for example, the build that I recommend, you just search for regen. If it has no regen, because regen is annoying because you have to have a mana flask because we don't have like a mana leech. So we would have to get mana flask, which is annoying, so I don't want to run no regen maps. Other than that, every single other map mod you can run. So I just basically make sure that I have no regen. If there is no regen, I reroll the map again until it's at least 85 quant. You're gonna get maps between, these are corrupted, so they got changed. These are the ones that I didn't run, but you're gonna get sorry, but you're gonna get anywhere between 85 to like 110 quantity, something like that. Once you have all of these 85 plus quantity maps, you're gonna corrupt them all. Once you corrupt them all, what can happen is there can be another region map rolled. So you type region again, make sure that whatever map mods you don't want to run, throw those maps away, just like set them for like sell them or something, right? You're never gonna run them. And then what you want to do is you hand pick the maps that have like 130, 120 quantity. You're gonna have a bunch of maps, roughly like 1/5 of your maps, or 1/4 even, are gonna be like more than 100 quant, and those maps are gonna be the maps that you run first, and then you're gonna pick the unidentified maps, because unidentified maps are gonna be getting extra quant and extra pack size from the sextant. So you first run the 130, 120 quantity maps, and then you run the unidentified maps, and this build, for example, can handle them no problem, right? So that's how I roll these maps. And then what I do is I don't run any other sextants, I actually run fragments. So I pick up sacrifice fragments because they add even more quantity to your map. So you run 3 fragments, and then you run expedition scarab. You put your map with like 120 quant in here, and then you pick fortune favors the brave. Fortune favors the brave has an additional 10% quantity, 10% rarity, and 10% pack size for the maps affected by fortune favors the brave. So I don't care what comes out of that. I don't care if I get delirium mirror or essence or whatever. Most likely I'm not even gonna interact with it. I'm just here for the pack size and the quantity. That's what I'm scaling. So once you have that map, you get into that map, you get into the city square, you go to the middle, kill the boss, and then you run around the map and you pick all the shrines. So the shrines have 2 options now when you kill the boss: either player effects or the runic monster effect, or rather not runic monster, the eldritch monsters. If you read the player effect and it doesn't say quantity rarity, you ignore that and you click the minion one, right? The runic, not runic, eldritch monsters, right? So most of the time you're gonna be picking eldritch monster ones, and you just don't care whatever it is, you just click it, because the build will be fine in those conditions regardless. But then if it's like a player related effect and it says quantity, just make sure it doesn't say like projectiles are fired in random directions, because that one is annoying. I don't like doing that one, so I skip it. It's still possible to do it, you just have to go like in between the monsters and shoot the projectiles, and explosions will carry anyway. But I skip that one and I pick every single other quantity one. So sometimes you're gonna pick a lot of quantity ones, and you're gonna get the quantity of your map from what it was originally, which is like 150 or something like that. You're gonna get it maybe to like 250 or even 300 with that, right? In that situation, you're gonna have so much loot when the monsters explode. But That's what we want to do. So you find the expedition, you set up the remnants. When it comes to the remnants, what you're looking for, and here's what you want to do and what you cannot do, right? So, for example, this is a chaos build, so I cannot do chaos damage. I can do the monsters are immune to curses, even though it bricks most of my explode. I still get some explode from the cluster jewels, but it basically makes it slightly slower. So if it's valuable one, I still will pick it. And then also another one that we don't really want to pick, we want to avoid is because we're low life. We want to avoid the one monsters like instantly kill things that are 20% life. Or below. However, I can just turn off like 1 or 2 auras and make sure that I use a life flask, right, when I do that, and then I can run that just fine, right? So I could run that mod as well if I accidentally select it. So even if you accidentally select it, you can still run it. And so basically the low life insta kill and the chaos immune are the only ones that I don't really want to run. Every other one is fine, and what you're looking for is quantity of items dropped by runic monsters. Like quantity of items dropped by monsters is really good. It's pretty much just as good or better than the logbook ones, because the logbook gives you like 50% quant for logbooks, and the quantity gives you like 40% quant for everything, which includes the reroll currencies, raw currencies, and so on, which is really good. So that's one of the main ones you're looking for. Of course, the quantity of logbooks is another one you're looking for. Don't confuse the quantity of items with quantity of artifacts. Artifacts are just these these black things that you cannot pick up, these like automatically picked up text. That's the artifacts. So you don't care that much about the artifacts. It's cool to get them, but it's not the most important thing. What you want to prioritize and go to like as soon as possible is the item quantity and the logbook quantity, and then also like monsters drop additional currency, stack decks, all those things are good. Pack size is also really good. And then you just select that, try to be as efficient as possible, and try to include as many runic monster markers as possible. You always want to include as many these like skulls on a pike as possible. These are the monsters. This is what's going to give you the loot. This is what's going to give you the reroll currencies. You don't care about the chests at all. When you're doing expeditions and maps, chests don't give you shit. Like, you don't care about them. You only care about the monsters, and you only care about the remnants, and that's what you're aiming for. Once you plant all of like, because you're gonna get like 7 of these detonations. Once you plant like 7 of these explosives, you detonate it, and then you run and clear the rest of the map, right? You make sure you select your stuff, and then when you come back, you run through the monsters and you use your Pandemonium Sentinel. Pandemonium Sentinel that you want to grab is Pandemonium Sentinel that's going to be at least Obsidian, which means it empowers at least 100 enemies. And then you want to make sure that it has the mode empowered enemies have increased quantity of items found. You want to get at least 200% of that. The 200% extra quantity is going to give you a massive amount of loot. So what matters on your Sentinel is the quantity, how many monsters it empowers, and then also the more charges the better, because it's gonna last you for longer, right? So you use both of them. You run through the monsters, and you immediately, when you are like approaching the pack, when you're like almost in the pack, you click it once. You can activate your VMS and your flasks to be safe, and you just run through the monsters, activate it again, and then once second one pops, then you just one-shot everything, right? You're gonna just shoot the soul rend or whatever thing your build does, and you're just gonna explode everything, because explode carries really hard. It's gonna be hundreds and hundreds of monsters. It's gonna be like 400-500 monsters easily in every expedition, and it's gonna give you absolutely insane loot. You're gonna get crazy loot explosions. You're gonna get situations where you're getting like 3 logbooks at a time. The most logbooks I got in one expedition, I think, was 4. Some people have said that they got like 6 logbooks in one. You're not gonna get logbooks every single time you do it, but you're gonna get a lot of them. The average I found is, I think we can safely assume like 1 logbook per map if you're doing this strategy. I did like 35 maps, and I get like 54 logbooks, something like that. So definitely like more than, I guess, like 1.4 logbooks per map, something like that, because especially if you include also the fact that you gonna split some of them, but I'm gonna explain that in a second. So that's basically how you map. Then you just pick up the loot, and you just keep repeating that, and you go through some of these sextants, and at the end you're gonna get a bunch of like reject city square maps that are corrupted, but let's say they rolled like the quantity went down or the quantity didn't go up and just like 75 or 85 or whatever. If you want to, you can just grab all these maps. You can just grab all these lower Scarabs and just like ignore the Sextants, just grab the rusted or polished Scarab, just grab these like whatever maps and just run them really quickly. Just really quickly run them, do the expedition, move on to the next map, right? You can do that as well very, very quickly. You're still gonna get a lot of currency doing that because you are going to drop logbooks and other good stuff. So now you have these logbooks. You're gonna have tons of reroll currency. You're gonna have tons of artifacts and of course other currency. But what do you do with these logbooks? So when it comes to logbooks, you wanna first filter if you have the sun on it, right? So you just type sun, right? You put them to the right side and you just store the sun. The sun ones are the ones that you wanna split, right? The sun are the ones that you wanna split, which means you wanna grab that. Let's say, let me give you an example, right? So let's say I grab this one. And or let's grab like a better example of the roles. For example, what do we have here? Okay, let's grab this one. Okay, let's say we have this expedition logbook, right? What I want to do is I want to go to the bestiary, right? And I want to grab Phenomenal Plague Arachnid, which is a beast that you can buy for roughly like 40 to 50 chaos. Okay. And then first thing that you want to do is blessed orb this logbook, right? So you want to make sure that the mods that are relevant are going to be as high as possible. So what are the relevant mods? So for example, number of explosives, I think is one of the best mods you can possibly get, right? So you want to make sure that the number of explosive, oh, there we go. We got this one in the middle. It says quantity of artifacts dropped by monsters, number of monster markers, and number of explosives. Number of explosives here rolled to 40, and then number of monster markers rolled to 38, which is insane. I don't care that much about these artifacts for the Knights of the Sun because the reroll currencies are the limiting factor here. So the fact that the other roll wasn't so high doesn't matter. So I just make sure that I roll these good rolls as high as possible with blessed orbs. You're gonna get tons of blessed orbs, like you're gonna self-sustain blessed orbs anyway, right? So I'll show you later how. So you wanna make sure you roll that and then you alch it with whatever and you split it in the bestiary because it needs to be alched first to split it, but the implicit is gonna stay. Whatever implicit you roll with the blessed orb is going to stay and get copied. So there is another one like this, exactly like this, where I have 40% increased number of explosives. Do I have it like next to it? It's somewhere in here, right? So there is another one, basically every single one of these except for like one corrupted one that I dropped, I think. Every single one of these has a copy, right? So you basically duplicate those. Why do you do that? Because they cost, let's see, if we select Knights of the Sun, they cost 70 chaos, and that is for like the shittiest one, right? The like a random Knights of the Sun logbook is 70 chaos, but you can duplicate it for like 40 to 50 chaos, right? So you're making like 20 or 30 chaos each time you duplicate that. You could sell them, but it's actually better to just run them because you're gonna get tons of real currencies. As long as you can kill the bosses, as long as you can kill the boss in this, you're gonna be doing very, very well, right? So just later on, when you split them, you scour them, you alch them again to make sure that they are alched, make sure there's no region on this, and you're gonna be fine. So this is what you run first. You're gonna run these, and then you're gonna go to Dannig and you're gonna exchange items. The things that you're gonna be grabbing from him are going to be Astro Galleys, right? So you just click on it. I just spent this one recently because that's the first thing I did before I split my logbooks. I wanted to make sure I get all of the Sun logbooks, but here's what you do. You refresh, and first thing you look for is logbooks. Of course, you buy every single logbook he has. You buy every single Astro Galley, and you buy every single exotic coinage. And then when it comes to other currencies from other shops, what you want to buy is Grand Broken Circle artifacts. You definitely want to buy those. And then you can also buy Lesser Black Scythe, Greater Black Scythe, and then if needed, you can also buy the exceptional ones, but you probably are not going to need the exceptional ones if you use them correctly. So Grand Broken Circle, when they come here on a deal, because this is like static price where you can exchange these currencies, but this is like, oh, you get a good deal, 0.8 of the Black Sun artifacts per the lesser order or whatever, right? But you definitely want to ignore the scrap metals. You don't care about those. You could pick them up. They will add up eventually. It's like 330 of them per X or something like that. So you could pick them up, but I find them a waste of time. So that's what you do first. That's how you spend this currency. After running these logbooks, that's what I'm going to be doing. Then the next thing is the black scythe. So the black scythe, basically you look for a logbook that has black scythe and nothing better, right? So Black Sun is the most important one. If you have the Knights of the Sun, that's what you run first. That's what you prioritize. You don't care if it has any other thing on it. Knights of the Sun is the most valuable one, so that's what you run. The secondary is the black scythe. So if it has black scythe and nothing better than that, then you run the black scythe. The black scythe are not something that you're going to be splitting unless it has a line that says contains Vorana, which is a boss. This boss is going to give you tons of exotic coinage, so that means you do want to split that because it has a guaranteed boss. If it doesn't have a guaranteed boss, you don't bother with splitting them because they cost about the same price as a split beast, so it's just extra trading time, it's just a extra rolling time, just a waste of time, right? So you don't want to do that. So second, you're gonna run these. You're gonna run the Tujen logbooks, right? After running Tujen logbooks, you're gonna come and haggle for items. Here's how you haggle for items, right? You make sure to do it quickly. You make sure that you know what are you gonna be grabbing. I'm gonna roll through a couple windows and just show you, right? So here I'll just grab the deck, roll a bit down and like scroll a bit down and grab it. Don't worry too much about like finicky stuff. Like don't try too hard with that. It doesn't really matter that much. If you have a lot of certain currency, you can be more liberal and just pick up whatever, and then you just reroll. Definitely pick up blessed orbs. Blessed orbs are very good to pick up. Alterations are pretty good to pick up. Alchemies, after sometimes you're not gonna want to pick them up. Definitely want to pick up stuff that is easy to sell in bulk or that is useful for you. So for example, okay, exalted shards, 10 exalted shards, you always want to pick up anything exalted, right? Fusings are pretty easy to sell in bulk, even though you need a lot of them. Whispering, like ghastly eye jewels, they can potentially sell, but you don't really want to look at them. You just grab them if they cost like the lesser black scythe artifacts or whatever, right? And other than that, you just don't worry too much. You just pick whatever looks good, like give it to like one scroll down, pick the item up, and that's good. You just move on, right? Let me grab something that has like, let me look for something that has like higher value so that I can try to explain another aspect of this. Okay, so we got a divine orb, which is worth of actually so much of this currency that I maybe shouldn't have picked it up, but it doesn't really matter. Let me see. Okay, we got exceptional black scythe artifacts. So you're gonna every now and then you're gonna see, like, for example, 6 divination cards for like 300 exceptional black scythe artifacts. You don't want to grab that. You definitely don't want to grab that. You're gonna get hundreds of the exotic coinages, and you're gonna get so many rerolls that you're gonna eventually find exalted orbs. I have found a mirror shard. I have found 4 exalted orbs. There's a lot of good stuff here, and mirror shard was costing like, you needed like 1,500 exceptional black scythe artifacts to even start haggling for that, right? So you don't necessarily want to pick up everything that shows up here that is very high value until you have like at least like 2k of these. Once you have like 2k of these, then you can be like a little bit more liberal, and I can maybe pick that up. It's worth actually like 3k, so yeah, you definitely don't want to pick that up. You can pick up some good essences, and you don't want to worry about this too much. Their rerolls on average are worth like, I think they're worth like 4 or 5 chaos. Pretty much every single window can give you 4 or 5 chaos worth of stuff, and then it's gonna give you some much more valuable things that are gonna definitely pay for the investment. So you definitely want to spend them yourself. The exotic coinages, the artifacts, you want to run these logbooks and you want to spend them yourself. And the last thing, the last logbooks that I would recommend, you can either sell them or you can run them. I think it would be actually, it's economically better to run them, but you might not do enough of them for that to actually pay out. What I mean by that is running these logbooks with the broken circle and spending astragales for Gwennen is profitable. It's very profitable, but it might take a very long time because it's it's a very, very high reward, but it takes a lot of rerolls. So what you want to go do is gonna go to this website. I'm gonna link it in the description, and you wanna select here. You wanna unselect the Crimson Jewel because you're not gonna have enough artifacts to pick both all the time. So you just pick the more valuable ones, and then you unselect the Gold Ring and you unselect the Turquoise Amulet, making sure that you only are spending Grand Broken Circle artifacts on the belts, which is the Mage Blood and the Headhunter. And then you make sure to generate the string and copy that. What you do then is you Control F, Control V, and then you just select these, right? You just pick up whatever is showing up. Everything that's showing up in here, you're just gonna pick up, skip these windows. These are worth like, Astrogalies are worth like 1 or 2C. They're not that valuable, but eventually, if you're just gonna use the ones that you farm yourself, eventually you're gonna get good stuff. I got the shield that was costing like 4x, I think. That was the only thing that I pretty much got that was valuable, but eventually you're gonna get good stuff. And this is something like a bigger investment that you're making, but it's definitely economically a positive thing to do, right? So then you just sell stuff, Control F, Control V, keep rerolling, keep grabbing stuff, and it's on average cheaper to get a Mage Blood by rolling Astrogalies from Gwennen than it is to actually buy the Mage Blood, right? And it doesn't even include the other stuff you're gonna get on the way, which is potentially something like getting a Headhunter. If you include the Headhunter and the Mage Blood, then it's already like way more profitable to do this than to buy the Mage Blood and Headhunter. But you need a lot of them. You need to roll like thousands of them, and you simply might not be doing enough of it to see that profit happen. So if you really want to, and if you want like a just quick profit, you can just sell these logbooks and you can sell the Astrogalies, but it's not going to be that big of a profit because they're not worth that much, because it's all about like the big numbers. So that's how you run the expedition. Once you have the currencies from the Tujen is gonna give you insane currency. Tujen is the one that you're gonna run the most logbooks for and that you're gonna get the most currency from. It's gonna give you like a full inventory of stack decks. Stack decks are very, very valuable. I think right now stack decks are for like, yeah, it's 1x for 95, 96 stacked decks. And like one session, I get like 400, 500 stacked decks with him, which is basically just adds up. Like I get like 1 or 2 Exalts and then I get hundreds of Chaos. It's very, very, very profitable. You get tons of other currencies, which you can just sell in bulk, like just as soon as you get like, you know, few hundred fusings. I think it's like 800 for egg, yeah, 880 for an X, so this is a couple X. Most of my currency just came from Tujen, pretty much. It's very, very profitable. So now that you know the strategy, now that you know how much currency you're going to be making and how to make it exactly in detail, let's talk about the build. This is the second part of this video. It's going to be a bit of a long video, but I wanted to give you like a full complete strat and a build to run this. This is a build that is extremely, extremely good at doing this strategy. It's very good for in terms of like the remnants. It doesn't care about most map mods. I run pretty much any map mod except for no regen, because I don't have really any like mana recovery other than the regen, and that's the only annoying thing about the no regen part, because for my ES it wouldn't matter because we leech anyway and we recover in other ways as well. So this is a Soul Rend Occultist. The idea of this build is that I wanted to make a build that doesn't care about the block, right? Because we've got the monsters in these expeditions that have insane chance to block, insane resistances, chance to avoid damage from hits, chance to avoid crits, immunity to different elemental damages. It's so annoying to play a hit-based build against them. Even though you could potentially use something like block chance reduction support, which is something that most people don't know it even exists. It requires a gem swap. I was using this in my Omni-Shot build. Whenever I like juiced too much block on the monsters, it's definitely very helpful, but you have to replace a gem, and so that will require like a white socket for my specific build, and it's kind of annoying. To make this gem, by the way, all you have to do is vendor evasion shield with 20% quality and a puncture gem, and you're gonna get a level 1 block chance reduction if you're interested in that. Most people don't even know it exists, but the better solution is to just run a dot build. And the best dot build to run is to run a dot build with explosions. So the obvious build that is like a meta build that is really, really good at farming these expeditions is Corrupting Fever Gladiator or Corrupting Fever, anything that is running the Hemophilia gloves, right? So if you have Explode and if your damage comes from dots that you can apply regardless if the monster is blocking the hit or not, that's gonna carry that's gonna basically carry really hard. And you need a lot of pierce as well and be able to shoot things from the distance, because sometimes these get really crazy. You get tons of altar mods on you and so on. So you need a build that will be safe. You need a build that will be doing dot damage. You need a build that doesn't care about too many of the mods from the Remnants, too many of the map mods, and you need a build that also is fairly cheap, because why would you play a very expensive build? So Corrupting Fever Glad, definitely a very good build for that. That would be the build that I would recommend if you don't play this one, but this one is tailor-made for running these. So this build relies on on explosions, which we are chaining and stacking from many different sources. At first I was playing ED Trickster, like ED Contagion Trickster, and I realized that whenever I got the Gloom Shrine or when I was using the Unspeakable Gifts Cluster Jewels, I was doing so much better in these expeditions, and Explode just carries beyond belief in these. It's just 10 times faster to clear these expeditions with Explode than not, because you have such an insane density of these packs when you stack enough pack size that it all chains together. So what we have is 40% for Explode from the Profane Bloom, and then we have 10% from Unspeakable Gifts here and 10% from Unspeakable Gifts here. So there is 60% for Explode, and then if that is not enough, we have Asena's Gentle Touch. I was not planning to originally run Asena's Gentle Touch, but because I have double curse, I wanted to do temp chains on hit, because Soul Rend actually hits. It has a hit component, so I wanted to make sure that I get to slow the monsters, because I'm not chilling or stunning them if I'm playing a dot build, so I wanted to slow them. That's why I wanted to get temporal chains on hit, and I basically typed temp chains on hit into the POE trade website because I wanted to look for a ring, but I didn't specify that I want the ring, and it showed me the gloves, and then I was like, might as well. So I put the gloves on and it works just fine. You get even more explosions, and you get to chain the explosions, and it's absolutely crazy. So very good gloves for the build, and they're actually not that expensive anymore. The cost is like 100 chaos right now. I don't know if these are corrupted or not, but they're pretty cheap. This was a fairly budget build. You can make this build for like, let's say 10x or something like that. You can make it and farm this content. I think I put more. I think I put like 20-25x into this build or something, which was mostly in this chest, which is like a +2 to duration shoves. But that's like the majority of the cost, and then +2 wand with spell damage, cast speed, and then chaos.multi. That was like the other part of the build that cost me some currency. So let's talk more about the Soul Rend and the setup. So a lot of people run GMP in the Soul Rend, but I decided to skip GMP and go for the Helm enchant. Soul Rend fires an additional projectile as well as Dying Sun. This is completely sufficient. Absolutely sufficient. Running GMP is just pointless. There is no reason to run GMP. Even 2 projectiles clear everything very, very well, because they have a decently big AoE. If you see, the AoE is about the size of this explosion that you see here. When I shoot this, you see this explosion. That's about the size of the AoE of these, and they also turn toward the monsters, which means they have like auto aiming, right? And they have infinite pierce. If you stack a little bit projectile speed, they fly even further. Infinitely pierce, slow enemies, put a dot on them, give you leech. It's just all around very, very good for this strategy. So we are running Soul Rend. This is just a level 21, 23 quality Soul Rend. The gem itself, like if you want to buy it, costs like 13 chaos because nobody is playing this skill. And then we are running Efficacy. We're running Awakened Control Destruction, because that is also giving us a chance to unnerve. So this is only 10%, 10% for 4 seconds, which we are not gonna get most of the time, but we're gonna get it like half of the time. So we're gonna get this extra unnerve every now and then. We also have Cruelty support while mapping and pretty much while bossing as well most of the time. You get like 40% 40% multiplier for damage over time. So cruelty is actually a little bit better than empower when you want to go on lower budget, but empower 4 would be stronger than this. So if you want to play with empower level 4 and put more currency into this build, that would be stronger than the cruelty, but cruelty is totally viable as well. Then we've got Awakened Void Manipulation for +1. And then we've got Awakened Swift Affliction, which normally people would run GMP because they don't like losing the duration, because we get 25% less duration. But the duration is still longer than the cast time, which means as long as we're standing there and casting, we have 100% uptime. And it's pretty decent uptime. It deals fine with the bosses. I'm able to kill all of the bosses, even with the crazy mods in the expedition logbooks, so I have no issues with that, and the build is completely sufficient for it. So I'm very happy with that. When it comes to the rest of the gems, we're running a lot of auras. We are running a Grace, Malevolence, and Determination. So Grace, Determination, as well as Defiance Banner, the classic combo. I noticed that the survivability went up quite a lot when I picked up Grace, even though we don't leverage this in any way, but it's just very nice to have this extra avoidance. And instead of Zealotry, I just decided to run Grace. It required me getting a little bit more dex. So for example, I had to like get a ring and craft a dex on it, get a dex on my amulet, and then I'm not sure if I'm picking up dex on tree. I'm picking up one dex node on the tree because dex is pretty hard to get on this build, but we get enough of it to be able to run level 24 Grace actually right now. The other auras I'm running is Purity of Elements, so we are immune to all the elemental ailments. Running Discipline as well. We're running max level Vitality, and we're running level 16 Clarity. I could run even higher level Clarity actually. Doesn't really matter, you just want some clarity for extra mana regeneration. So tons of auras that we're running. On top of that, we're also running Anomalous Blood and Sand. This is reserving only 10% of the mana by default, but it's giving me 20% increased projectile speed, which basically increases the clear, increases the speed and the distance of the projectiles that we're shooting. Other than that, we have Arcane Surge, faster attacks, shield charge, flame dash. So we just got shield charge with faster attacks and flame dash for mobility. Very standard combo. And then we also have a spell totem with multiple totem support and wither. We are applying wither through that, as well as through these passives. We have Eternal Suffering ×2, so we've got 100% chance to inflict withered for 2 seconds on hit if there are 5 or fewer withered debuffs on the enemy. This basically means if I shoot a couple of Soul Rends into the monsters, they're gonna actually get withered, and the Chaos Explosions as well as the subsequent Soul Rends are gonna do more damage without me having to put Totem. Totem I put down only when I'm like fighting in one place and I know I'm not gonna be moving from there, just for the extra wither. And then we've got Cast when damage taken, Molten Shell as well, because we are running Determination. We have a decent amount of armor. If I pop my flask, I got 30k armor, so there is a decent Molten Shell going on as well as an extra defensive layer. So that's it when it comes to the gems. When it comes to the gear, very classic low life setup with the Shavs plus Prism Guardian. If you can get Shavs with +2 levels of the gem, the tags that you can get +2 levels are AoE, Duration, Projectile. All 3 of those will work, so you can get potentially +4 Shavs and do much more damage than I'm doing. Then we get Crown of the Inward Eye, because we are scaling our mana a little bit higher. We need at least 2k mana because it's gonna give us extra damage, and we're getting also extra armor and energy shield, both of which are very important to us. So we got Crown of the Inward Eye. With the Soul Rend fires an additional projectile. It was very cheap. I don't know if there is one on the market right now. Let's see, is there 44 chaos, 45 chaos? Yeah, pretty cheap. Wand with +1 to chaos skills, or with +1 to chaos and +1 to all spell skills. When you want to invest a little bit more, this is going to give you a lot of damage. And then we want some cast speed, spell damage, damage over time, chaos damage over time multiplier. For the amulet, we have just +1 to chaos skills, some energy shield, some attributes. I have some extra mana regen on that and res. For the belt, you just want energy shield and regen. Actually, I recommend investing in regen wherever you can. The build actually feels much better the more regen you stack on it. You just become much more tanky. So I made sure to get a belt with some energy shield regen, as well as energy shield regeneration per second while a rare or unique enemy is nearby. It's very easy to get a belt like this. You can get this without the influence, with just like total energy shield and some regen, and you're gonna get it for 80 chaos 1x. You can craft this for much less. You can craft something like this for much less. And then we've got the rings, one of which has to have curse enemies with despair on hit, and another one you could either have what I have, which is just like energy shield, attributes and resistances, or you can actually get the temp chains on hit and skip the Asana's touch. You can completely skip that as well. So that's another piece of gear that we have here. And then I have Rainbow Stride. I just bought these with the enchant, increased mana regeneration if you've cast a spell recently. This is just, I just needed something cheap with res, move speed, and decent amount of energy shield. And also I wanted the spell block. Spell block is very, very nice on this build. So I got Rainbow Strides. They cost nothing. Like I don't know if you can find ones with the enchant. Let's see. 25 chaos. Yeah, probably it's gonna disappear because it's only one on the market with this enchant, but the enchant is not necessary, or you can just get a rare piece of boots that are much better than this. For the flasks, Dying Sun for the extra projectiles and AoE, Roomies for the block and armor, Silver Flask with also chance to avoid being stunned. I like running this, even though we're running this modifier here. Stun threshold is based on the 50% of energy shield instead of life. I'm running the stun avoidance, and I'm running the Brine King just so I never get stunned, so I don't have to deal with that. And then we've got Quicksilver of Adrenaline as fast as you can get. And then Quartz Flask is very, very important. Make sure you have Quartz Flask, and then reduced effect of curses on that is really cool. I have 80% reduced effect of curses on me, I think, by default, because of Pantheon and because of this cluster here, which is very nice. So curses, like curse map mods, don't really affect me, because when I pop this flask, I'm absolutely like impervious to them. But by default, even without flask, I have 80% reduced effect of curses on me. So this character covers a lot of the bases. That's it when it comes to the flasks. And now let's talk about the passives, starting with the necessary things that you are going to have to pick. So first of all, I'm actually 1 point away from a socket jewel, which I should pick definitely instead of something, maybe this spell block, or maybe like one of the damage nodes or something. Or maybe the curse effect, because I'm immune with flasks anyway, or this thing. But anyway, I should pick this jewel socket. We're picking a lot of aura clusters because we are running tons of auras, right? So we are running this reservation mastery here. So life reservation, aura effect, and the mana reservation, along with all of these clusters, is what we're gonna be running. We're running this cluster, Insightfulness, for extra mana and energy shield. And here's why mana is important, because we are running, let me find it. I think it's this, yes, Dark Ideation. So Dark Ideation is a very undervalued passive. This gives you 2% increased chaos damage per 1000 maximum mana, up to maximum 80%. This means if you have 4000 mana, this is gonna give you 80% increased chaos damage. But if you have 2000 mana, this is gonna give you 40% increased chaos damage, which means by picking 2 of them, we're getting the full 80%, because no matter how many of them you stack, together they all can give you maximum 80% increase. So you just get to 2k mana, you just get 2 of the Dark Ideation. Each of them is going to give you 40% increased chaos damage, which is very, very strong. I think it's a bit stronger than the Wicked Pal, even though this duration is very helpful, but this gives you just more burst damage, as well as increased damage of your explosions and so on. When it comes to cluster jewels, the large cluster jewel that you would ideally want is this: Dark Ideation, Unspeakable Gifts, and Wicked Pal. And you actually don't necessarily want to pass through the Dark Ideation. This is just the only one that gives you Wicked Pal and Unspeakable Gifts in the front, so you don't have to pick up the extra passive. So that's definitely what you would want to grab as an ideal. Second good one would be Touch of Cruelty, Unspeakable Gifts, Wicked Pal, because the Touch of Cruelty will give you a chance to hinder on hit with your Soul Rend, which will further increase your damage that you're dealing, and then you just path here for the Unspeakable Gifts. For the medium ones, I'm running a couple of Dark Ideation with Wicked Pal, and then we are running a couple of Wicked Pal with Eternal Suffering. And I also one Unwaveringly Evil. Yes, Unwaveringly Evil also makes sure that I can cast even if I would have gotten stunned. This is something that I always pick up on like a Chaos caster like ED Contagion or whatever. It's very, very helpful. When it comes to the small one, we want to run Enduring Composure. I got Enduring Composure with some armor and dex. If you can get some extra attributes, this is a really good place to do that, like extra strength, extra dex on these medium and large cluster jewels, or the small ones are very, very helpful. Okay, what else are we running? We're also running a Watcher's Eye. I was originally running Watcher's Eye with Chaos Damage over Time multiplier while affected by Malevolence, but I actually found that the character is much better with this one instead. This one was much cheaper, so I sold the other one for profit, and I actually bought this one, which is much cheaper, and I just got Unaffected by Bleeding and a chance to block spell damage while affected by Discipline. This made me insanely more tanky. I'm Unaffected by Bleeding, which is a very, very common mod in the expeditions. You're gonna get bled a lot, and we're not running Life Flask. We're not gonna like put reduced duration, bleed immunity or anything like that on these, because that's just bad. So we're running Unaffected by Bleeding while affected by Malevolence and extra spell block. This is a very, very good Watcher's Eye for this build. It's just purely defensive, but it's super strong defensive. The spell block is also very, very powerful on this character. I'm also picking spell block here, as well as having spell block on the boots and spell block on the roomies. The reason for that is we don't have spell suppression, so spells will hurt a lot, especially when there's like tons of monsters that are shooting spells. I think there's like one type of eldritch monsters that come from the altars that shoot spells at you, and those are going to hurt a lot if you don't have spell block. But when you have spell block, like I have like 30% spell block, and suddenly I don't take damage from them. So it's a very, very big difference, and I definitely recommend getting some spell block. Then we've got some smaller ones. I got Corrupted Blood Cannot Be Inflicted on Me, which I actually don't need anymore, right? Because I'm unaffected by bleeding. I think this is also related to Corrupting Blood, as far as I know. But yeah, so I had originally the Corrupted Blood plus Chaos.multi, Energy Shield, reduced mana cost of skills. And then I've got Chaos.multi, increased chaos damage, maximum energy shield, stun and block recovery. You can get like cast speed here, you can get resistances, dexterity for attributes. Make sure to pick up Zealot's Oath, of course, because we are definitely stacking some regeneration. How much regen do I have right now? Energy shield, regeneration per second. I got like 600 energy shield regen. And that comes from the max level vitality with all the increased effects. It comes from the gear, and that doesn't even show the 180. So we've got it's like almost 800 energy shield regenerated per second, while a rare or unique enemy is nearby. So tons of regen makes this character feel so much better. Capped on all the resistances, I don't bring them above 75 on this character, because again, this is a very budget character. You probably could grab maybe some anointment or something. The anointment I grab is Growth and Decay, which is damage over time multiplier and 1% life regen. Very, very good anointment. This is an anointment that will give you the most damage that you can get for the clear. The Wither is pretty good, right? But this is something that will apply mostly to boss fights and not really to clearing, so we don't care about it that much. So the Growth and Decay, and this is the default best anointment. If you wanted to go for a defensive option, then I would recommend something like Prismatic Skin, which will give you 2 to all maximum resistances. And I think I went over everything here. We get some reduced curse effect and chaos res. We get chaos damage over time multiplier per 4% chaos resistance, and we are capping our chaos resistance at 75. And we're immune to all elemental ailments, and that's basically it. So that's pretty much the character. You can you could league start with this character if you wanted to. This is very easy to make. You can just do ED Contagion. I recently actually uploaded like a pretty much a full run of leveling a character that is a Chaos Skills Occultist, and you can use that leveling in order to make this character very cheaply. You can do it on a budget, and then you can do these expeditions and make tons of currency. The next project that I'm making, the next build I'm making, is going to be a very expensive build. I'm gonna need like at least 300x probably to finish that build, if not more. So that's why I focused for the past couple days on farming a lot of currency, and this strategy was very successful, so I wanted to share it as well as share the build. If you have any questions, the POE is going to be in the description, but let me know in the comments if you get any questions about the strategy or the build. I definitely recommend it. This is something that you just get so much raw currency that this strategy doesn't really care that much about the economy. It's going to be viable for quite a while, because the things that you're getting from this are like stacked decks, raw chaos, raw exalts, and logbooks, which in turn can be like, they can be turned into that raw currency as well. So this is a very nice, very like feel good strategy where you explode tons of monsters, and that's basically it. Thank you so much guys for watching. Hopefully it's gonna be helpful to you, whether it's the strategy or the build, and see you next time. Bye bye.